After Effects can be an intimidating beast if you're not familiar with it. I'm going to share with you the 5 things that I consider to be the most important things to know in order to create something sexy in After Effects. Hi friends, I'm Scott, a director and cinematographer based in London, England, today discussing something that has little to nothing to do with neither directing nor cinematography. After I posted this video about the making of an adorable animation earlier this year, a friend of mine declared that I didn't actually explain how to do it. She wasn't wrong. It was meant to be looking at the process of making the video, and I suppose if you know how to do all those things within the process, it's then kind of a step-by-step to how you can do it. 4 out of the 5 things I'm going to discuss in this video played key roles in the animating of that video for Bio, and 3 of them I've used in anything I've ever created in After Effects, ever. They are keyframes, easing, motion blur, turbulent displacement, and plugins. Keyframes are as basic as it gets inside the control panel of your editing software or the drop-down within After Effects. A keyframe holds information: position, scale, rotation, opacity, the list goes on. Many parameters can have keyframes. When you add multiple keyframes, you're giving the program instructions, directions. So we've got a square inside of After Effects. I'm going to come down to my timeline, select shape, and I'm going to hit P for position. But I could also click on the drop-down here and go to transform. I'm going to click this little guy here, this little stopwatch. That is the stopwatch that creates keyframes. I'm going to scrub forward 10 frames and I'm going to hit another keyframe. And because what we want is for this guy to fall into the frame, I'm going to go back to that first one. You're saying, Scott, well, why don't you just put the second keyframe first, and then why are you wasting our time? So that's a good question. And I can either type in a number here, 400, but it's much easier to just click and hold and drag this bad boy until he's out of frame. Now our square friend is gonna do this into frame. Now you can apply this to a load of other principles. We can do the same with size. Let's set keyframe at 80 and go forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Set a second keyframe. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't even need to set that second keyframe. I'm gonna edit undo that because it will automatically set a keyframe when I adjust the parameters on this different frame. So I'm gonna scroll up on the scale to 120. And there you go. Boom, got bigger. Boom, got bigger. Remember, keyframes can be found all over the shop. If you're in Final Cut Pro X, Premiere, if you're 100 years old, they can be found in Avid. Easing is the next step to sexy on the After Effects superhighway. Easing in, easing out, it brings a sense of realism to the movement. In actual life, when you're running and you come to a stop, unless you hit a brick wall, you don't come to a sudden stop, you come to a gradual stop. We can apply that to our square. If he's running in from the side, we'll probably want to ease him in to a stop. Or if he's falling and impacting on a surface, we might want to ease out. Here we're basically trying to mirror gravity. If we chucked a brick off of a high-rise building, it would just get faster and faster and faster as the momentum builds. So in this instance, we want to ease out. I'm going to click on that layer and I'm going to hit U on the keyboard, which is going to bring up the keyframes. I'm simply going to select those keyframes. I can either do that by clicking and dragging, or I can just click on position and it will select all the keyframes marked under position. Then I'm going to go to the latter keyframe and I'm going to right click, come down to keyframe assistance. I'm going to ease in, which doesn't make much sense, but I'm going to do that. You will see that it kind of slows down as it's coming into frame. If we want to treat this like gravity, we want to pretend that there is, in actual fact, a floor here. After Effects a lot of the time is all about trying to recreate what would happen in real life. If this square was falling in and then coming to a stop, gravity would play a role in that. So it wouldn't slow down unless it had a parachute, but it doesn't have a parachute. Rather than easing in, I'm going to ease out. And it's easing out of the movement rather than, into the frame, out of the frame, irrelevant. It's the movement. We're easing out of the movement. So speeding up because of gravity. Then if you want to take this a little bit further, you can adjust the strength of these. If you want to elongate it or alter it anyway, that's U again on the keyboard to drop down and reveal our keyframes. Click on position, select both of them. Then we go over here to Graph Editor. Click on Graph Editor and it will show you both the x-axes and the y-axes. The problem that we face here is they are still tied together. So we select both and go down here to the bottom and click on Separate Dimensions. I'll reapply these there, and I can now reapply these on both ones actually. Ease. And now I can manipulate the length of these. So it's easing in and out here, easy ease. But I really want it to slow right down before it comes in. So I'm stretching that guy over there. Super fast at the start, super slow at the beginning. Nice. And just click on Graph Edit to get back to your normal screen. After you've conquered making the movement feel a bit more realistic, you need the eyes to believe it. Motion blur is a natural occurrence in everyday real life. It's a limitation of the human eye. In film and video, motion blur is recreated by doubling the camera's shutter speed relative to the frame rate it's shooting at. For example, 25 frames per second is the standard here in Europe, so the shutter speed would be 1/50th. Or if we were shooting at 50 frames per second for slow motion, the shutter speed would be at 1/100th. This looks natural to the viewer because the human eye perceives and behaves in much the same way motion blur is created. To achieve this in After Effects, it's as easy as clicking this little button down here. You used to have to make sure that the sequence was enabled as well. You don't anymore. You just have to click this guy and it will automatically enable it on the sequence. But sometimes if you're like duplicating a sequence or copying something over, it might not automatically enable it. So just make sure that this guy here is checked. You can manipulate the strength of the motion blur if need be. Sometimes it just doesn't feel right. Maybe it's too extreme or it's not enough. And we go right click, composition settings, and we come over to advanced. Down in advanced is the motion blur settings. The two things that you're going to notice the most change in is the shutter angle and the adaptive sample limit. If I wanted that to be even blurrier, I'm going to take this bad boy up to 180 and 110. I'm just pulling numbers out my ass, but I think it'll work. And look, you can see there, if we stop on the actual frame, how much blurry it is already. Turbulent displacement. Without probably realising it, you'll have seen this effect before, I guarantee it. It's what makes text feel cartoony, or an animation feel more organic. In the bio video we looked at previously, it's what I use to give the rainbow some life. It can be as simple as select the object you want to add this to, Effect, Distort, Turbulent Displace. And look at that! I mean, there's no keyframes going on, but already our guy's having a good time. You have one too many whiskies. Back to the keyframes. So up here in the effects controls, we're going to click on amount and size. And I think we're going to click on evolution as well, actually. Let's click on all three of those. And our sequence, hit U again, reveals our keyframes. And we're going to go to the end of the timeline, all the way to 19 frames in. And I'm going to evolve. He's having a good time. He's having a great time. I'm going to evolve the size. And I'm going to evolve the amount. It's going to get mental. What the hell is he doing? But yeah, these are the principles that create whatever the hell is going on here. I'm going to get rid of all of those. And I'm going to just keyframe the evolution. And to show you how I approached the movement of the rainbows, for example, I'm going to go to the settings, turn the amount way down to 15, and the size to 25. It's not an art, it's just playing until it feels right. But you can already see there that our square has not got sharp square edges anymore. If I turn that off, you'll see that's what a square looks like, if you didn't know, and that's what a turbulently displaced square looks like. And if I play that through, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to sit there. So what I'll do is I'll go to the last frame and I will play with my evolution. I'm going to turn this guy and he's going to wiggle. And I'll play that. Oh, look at that. Got a tasty little groove on. This is the way that I did it in the rainbow example, but there are better ways. You can take it one step further and use an expression. I forget this expression every time and I have to head to Google. So I'll leave it in the notes below this video for safekeeping if you want to try it. So within our turbulent displacement, we're going to click down on transform. No, we're not. We're going to click down on effect, turbulent displace, evolution options, and random seed. Then we're going to hold option and click on the stopwatch on random seed. Click in our expression box and type time star 100. Clicks anywhere else on the screen. Look at that! It's dancing at 100. Plugins are your friend. Whether it's as simple as speeding up the mundane or achieving things via pre-programmed expressions that I would have no clue how to achieve otherwise, plugins just make life better. If you search hard enough, there are some useful free plugins for After Effects out there, and if you can part with a little cash, there are a ton of amazing plugins over at aescripts.com. But one of my all-time favourites is Motion by Mount Mograph. He also has a ton of great backlogged After Effects tutorials you should watch if you want to further your knowledge over on his channel. I'll link it below. I hope you found this video helpful. Give the video a thumbs up if you did, and if you're already a regular After Effects user, let me know your most used plugin in the comments below, please. Make sure to subscribe for more semi-helpful tips and interesting insider industry knowledge, and thanks for watching.